On your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, do the Raptors have further depths to stoop to with their offense? Plus, a couple more what's more likely related questions as we play an old favorite of the podcast with our favorite guest, Katie Heindl of Basketball Feelings. Is all coming up. Thanks for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, November the 17th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the website that's busted at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and of course, come hang out in our Discord server. The link is in the description. It's free to join. It's a great place to be. Plenty of triumphant excitement when the Raptors are doing well, plenty of spiraling when they're doing not so well. It's a world of extremes in the Locked On Raptors Discord, but it's nice and not toxic when those things are taking place. So come hang out. It's a good spot. And it's free to join. Again, link in the description as always. You can also find the show for free wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, follow, rate, review, tell a friend, etc., etc. We're also on YouTube each and every day. Go subscribe and then hit the little notification bell. You hit that, you'll get a notification every single time the show is about to premiere, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And let's get going and bring in our lovely guest, Katie Heindl from Dime Basketball Feelings, and from watching that really, really bad Raptors game on Wednesday night in person. Katie, how the hell are you?
I'm good. It was a really bad game.
Oh, one of those games, I'm not credentialed anymore, Katie. I hang out at home and just yell into my computer, and that's that's the lot in life I've sort of carved out, and that's fine. The game like that makes me not at all miss the many hour journey that is getting into the city, going to pregame stuff, walking around for a little while there's a big lull between getting some food and the game starting, and then the drawn out post game process and the drawn out getting on the bus process. Did not miss it after that one. I just went to bed after doing a podcast. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't stick around for the post games. Still got home obviously a bit late, but you got to go every once in a while. At least I do. Yeah. And I wanted it. I thought this could be interesting. I want to see Giannis. I missed the last time the Bucks were here. Didn't see Giannis. Did see Dame. Raptors looked confused.
That's a word for it.
There were some bright spots, but yeah, it was pretty. I'll put it this way. I answered a lot of emails in the fourth quarter.
It is a professional move by a professional writer, and I guess woman about town. I guess is you just do everything, Katie. You're all over the place. You're winning awards and everything. It's awesome stuff. All right, Katie, we're gonna play What's More Likely today. Everyone's favorite Toronto Raptors parlor game that we have sort of probably trademarked here on the show. I haven't actually trademarked the phrase "What's More Likely" because it feels insane.
Get on it.
Akin to LeBron James trying to trademark Taco Tuesday. Probably a little less problematic and dumb than that. But we'll patent pending, trademark pending, etc. We're going to play What's More Likely. It's a pretty simple game. I come up with a couple of either or scenarios, both of which of the outcomes are pretty unlikely, and we determine which of the outcomes is the most likely to take place in the real world. Katie, are you ready to play What's More Likely?
Let's do it.
I got to get more production for that. I'll work on it. I'll start trying soon. All right, let's go to the first one, Katie. The first What's More Likely scenario coming off of a very, very ugly offensive performance against the Milwaukee Bucks, who up until Wednesday couldn't stop anybody. The Raptors, though, they're a special kind of bad on offense when they really try. What's more likely, Katie? The Toronto Raptors finish dead last in offensive efficiency or finish 20th or better. As it stands right now, after a run of some pretty bad offensive performances, they are 27th in the NBA in offensive efficiency. What say you to this one, Katie? What's more likely, dead last in the league or a respectable 20th?
I think as much as we're kind of clowning them, I think they still have time to pull it together.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a lot of time, and maybe I'm weighing more heavily on this, other teams to fall apart. So I'll say better than 20th.
I am with you, Katie. Right now, the dead last place team in offense in the NBA, the Grizzlies are 28th, right behind the
Mhm.
Raptors. They're a full 2 points worse than the Raptors. The Raptors are at 108.6 offensive rating, Grizzlies at 106.6. The Spurs are 29th, and the Portland Trailblazers, who of course the Raptors lost to in a game where they couldn't score, 104.2 offensive rating, 4.4 points worse than what the Raptors are right now. It's going to be extremely hard to fall to those depths. On the other hand, 20th right now is the Lakers, who notably not very good at offense. The Raptors are 2 full points behind them for 20th. I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be this bad. I think we're having this conversation on the heels of a game in which Gary Trent Jr. and OG Anunoby were out,
Mhm.
and that is important. 3-point shooting, valuable to running offense in 2023. As it turns out, I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were against the Bucks or as bad as they've been in their worst performances. And I also believe in the power of their transition thing to just kind of like uplift everything, because their transition offense is unbelievably good. They score basically every time down the floor when they do it. And I think, we saw this last year, right? They finished like 13th in offense despite
Mhm.
being, once again, one of the worst half court offense teams in the league because the transition was so good. I still think there's some room to grow and improve here, even if the roster construction is a little, not exactly suited to really clean, crisp, awesome offense. Katie, what do you make of the fact that the Raptors are this dependent on OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr. being in the lineup? Like, this is a bad thing, right? That like those two guys go out and there's just nothing. There's no hope for anything resembling a functional offense. Seems not great.
I mean, small sample size, because I do think it was a bad night for actually Scotty had a good Scotty had like a decent scoring night, but it wasn't enough. Bad
Hmm.
night for Pascal. So you've got other people you want to be impact makers, on the offensive end of the floor that just weren't.
Hmm.
So that's what I think is more the anomaly. Like if you're gonna have injury or guys are gonna rest or be out of the lineup for whatever reason, yeah, the rest of the team should be able to kind of fill in. So it isn't great. I don't think like, touch wood, Gary Trent and OG Anunoby are not this probably won't happen that often that they'll both be
Hmm.
out of the lineup.
Sure.
But man, that like if Darko Rakovic wants a 10-man rotation,
Yeah.
some other guys gotta step it up offensively.
Yeah.
So my sense is like there's all those other things we talked about, which are kind of anomalies. And then also there's going to be a lot of coaching pressure to try and fix that.
Yeah. And look, I think Darko's done a good job in games of kind of, throwing out the whole let's pass for the sake of passing thing just
Mhm.
because it's not the most efficient, right? And they've been very happy to say, all right, Pascal, go post up and, obliterate a bunch of hapless power forwards in the post. And that's worked great. I feel like he's scoring like 2 points per possession when he posts up right now. Don't quote me on that number. It's probably not exactly right, but it's what it feels like it is, Katie. And that's more important. To the point of there are other guys in the rotation. Like, yeah, they got to hit shots. Like
Mhm.
Malachi Flynn can't go 0 of 8 from 3 in a game where there's no Gary Trent Jr. or OG Anunoby. And to the point of like Siakam having a rough game, I do think a lot of that is a symptom of the team that they're up against being like, well, who else do we got to guard? I guess we
Yeah.
can throw 3 guys at Pascal and nothing's really going to hurt us because it's going to be a parade of bricks from Jalen McDaniels and Malachi Flynn and Dennis Schroeder in that game as well. It was was there any talk about Schroeder in the building about like because he doesn't look right. The last couple of games he's looked a step slow. Obviously was questionable before that game against the Bucks. Like any word from the ground about Schroeder and what's going on there?
I didn't hear anything, which
Yeah.
makes me feel like it's probably fine. And yeah,
Yeah.
he was questionable and is like taking a little, it's like a slower step coming back. He'll probably get his legs under him. I mean, Schroeder has some other like outstanding, like more in his like offensive decision making. I
Hmm.
feel like it's like a bit of an old habits die hard sort of situation with him and wanting to like volume shots from all over the place,
Hmm.
which he's had to curb, right? If you're trying to do like a bit of a pass first offense. But no, I didn't. my reporting was just limited to what music the Bucks were playing in the hallway pregame. I didn't do any intrepid reporting about Dennis Schroeder. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's understandable. The most important reporting is going to be what happened to OG Anunoby and his hand when
Yes.
he was doing chores. We got to find out the nature of this household injury more than anything else. Hopefully we get the word on Friday. I also realized I asked you that Dennis question. We're recording this on Thursday morning. We'll probably get some sort of update on Dennis's status
Most likely.
before the episode airs. So whatever. Ignore that. I might just cut that part of the podcast out. If not, hey, you got a little treat. We'll leave it there and come back on the other side and get into our second What's More Likely, which has to do with the in-season tournament. It starts tonight. We get the fun court, we get the jerseys, and we get to watch the table. I love doing group stage table math, Katie. We're going to get to that in just 1 second. But first, today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. This time of year can be a lot, and it's natural to feel some sadness or anxiety about it. I do not do well when the clocks go back. It really throws me off. I do not like the early darkness. There's a reason seasonal affective disorder is a thing. I totally buy it. It's just not a wonderful time of year. The weather's not so good. It's busy. You got lots of stuff going on. And it's okay to have someone to talk about it. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all of the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded and to give you the tools to manage everything that's going on. I know a lot of people who have really benefited from therapy. It's gotten them through some tough times in their lives. It also doesn't have to be for tough times, reacting to direct trauma. It can just be a way to talk through what you want to do, talk about your values, figure out what's your sort of compass for making decisions, and someone who's there just paid to listen to you with no agenda. That is a beautiful thing, and you can get that with BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by our dear friends over at Game Time, who are taking all of the guesswork out of buying tickets for whatever event it is you might want to go to. It could be a Raptors game. It could be a comedy show. It could be a theater show. Whatever it might be, Game Time has the tickets for you. I just used Game Time this week to buy tickets for the winner of last year's Over-Unders contest, Jeffrey Richardson. He's going to the game with his son this Sunday, Raptors Pistons, and it's all because of Game Time. I got a nice set of seats, lower bowl, and Jeffrey and his son are going to go to the game, and that's very exciting. And I was able to pick the seats and know exactly what the sight lines were going to be. No, I was getting the very best deal in the house. There's flash deals, there's zone deals as where you pick the zone, and they will pick you the exact seats, and you can save some money on that as well. And the Game Time guarantee means you're always going to get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less somewhere else, Game Time will credit you with 110% of the difference. There's no reason to even go to any other site. Just go to Game Time and search for the tickets. They're going to have everything you want for the events that you want to go to. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we continue on here. Katie Heindl of Dime and Basketball Feelings is here, and we are playing What's More Likely, the greatest parlor game in the history of parlor games on niche Toronto Raptors podcasts. Katie, the tournament starts tonight. I'm very excited. I'm an in-season tournament freak. I love it. The courts are cool. I like having a separate table to keep an eye on, and I'm already imagining the machinations of, if the Raptors lose to the Celtics, what do they got to do point differential and record-wise to become one of those wild card teams that gets into the quarters? I'm already thinking about it. They haven't even played a game. The only team yet to have played a game in the in-season tournament. Our next What's More Likely, Katie, is all tournament-related. What's more likely? The Toronto Raptors make the in-season tournament semis in Vegas, or go 0-4 in the group stage. For those who don't know, I don't know the letter of the Raptors group, but the teams in their group are the Boston Celtics, the Chicago Bulls, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Orlando Magic. Katie, what's more likely? A Cinderella run to the semis. The team gets the vibes of going to Vegas and all of the money that comes with winning the tournament. I guess they have to get through the semis and to the finals and win that. We're not worrying about that. We're just talking straight semis, making it to Vegas right now. Is that more likely than an 0-4 run through the group stage for your Toronto Raptors? What you got here?
It's too bad that I can't pick 0-2 because that actually seems the most possible outcome based on the teams that they're playing. I want them to go to Vegas. I think they'd have a good time. I think that they're gonna go. I think I'll go 0-4 though. Sorry.
You got a lot of belief in the Bulls here, Kate. I know the Raptors have lost some very stupid games to the Bulls.
Their meetings, so they might finally yield something.
Just an update on the standings right now. It is Group C the Toronto Raptors are in. The Boston Celtics, time of recording, 1-0. They lead the group. The only team without a loss so far who has played a game. This is good for the Raptors and their hopes. All the other teams accruing losses. The Magic 0-1. The Bulls 0-1. The Nets are 2-1 right now. Only got one game left on the sked. That is their game against the Raptors, which is coming up a little down the line. It's the last game of the group for them. Katie, I'm just in hog heaven looking at this table. It's a beautiful table of a group stage. It's fantastic. I'm so happy.
Everybody is losing their minds in the in-season tournament, though.
They are.
Those courts are really turning people a little bit crazy.
What is your take on the courts, Katie? I don't think we talk about basketball art all the time. What's your overall impression of the courts?
I like them. They're incredibly visually overwhelming. It's almost impossible to watch some of the games on some of the courts, especially like the Pacers teal. You know, the like really the Suns purple. Pacers court. No, I love them visually, but it's kind of like this must be so disorienting. Honestly. There's all these reports, like Luka Doncic was saying, like the court was wet. It was like soft in parts, like it was giving way underfoot. So like something is really not great with the structural integrity of some of the courts. There have been complaints about. As long as nobody gets hurt, Rudy Gobert's okay, so that's good. But as long as nobody gets hurt on these courts because of the courts and because of the like psychology that the courts are. Like,
are you saying that the court in what was it, Minnesota, drove Draymond Green to like piss mad? I
went on like a research rabbit hole after because I was like, what? Like, I want to look at color theory psychology, and yeah, some of the courts are like the colors they're made to generate hostile feelings. Yeah, I don't know if the designers had that in mind, but like. Everybody's going crazy on these courts.
You're supposed to like paint a child's room like a soft yellow, right? Because it's like the most docile color. Maybe like all the courts should just be yellow, or just make them really, really bright
yellow,
red.
Like the bright yellow that they're using in some of them can also inspire real like not calming feelings.
Yeah, I have to say I don't love a lot of what the Utah Jazz do design wise, but their purple court.
It's great.
Extremely tight. Oh my God. It's so good. By the way, the Raptors court, I'm very high on the Raptors court. The jerseys I can take, but the court's just going to look like asphalt, which I think is kind of cool. It's a nod to how we all grow up.
Too close to the Nets purgatory court for me.
Yeah, that's a good counterpoint.
But maybe it'll look different.
The Purgatory Bowl between those two teams to close out the group stage. It's going to be massive, Katie. It's going to be scenes.
The Purg Bowl.
Yeah. I don't think I've answered the question yet. You said 0-4, right?
Yes.
Looking at this, I don't think the Nets are a very good team. I really don't. I think the Magic already being a -20 in the plus-minus department is bad news for the Magic. And everyone loves the Magic, Katie. Oh, the Magic, they're so great. Paolo and Franz. They are. Paolo and Franz are awesome. The Magic are also just like a less talented, further back in their evolution version of the Toronto Raptors. it's the same roster build, just younger and worse. And so I'm taking Raptors over Magic. I'm taking Raptors over Nets. The Bulls, some weird stuff could go down. I think the pathway here is like a 3-1. You lose to Boston, but you have the point differential from waxing these other teams, and they make it in as a wild card. I'm going to say semis is the more likely outcome here. We get a magical run. I just don't see them going on 4. I really don't. This is a 500 ass team.
But what I see is not an option. So I had to pick,
That's the beauty of this game. It's just, it's an unforgiving beast. It really, really is. Do you have like a team that you're like, the Pacers are off to a good tournament start. They're 2-0. The Heat are 2-0. Do you have a team that you're like, excited to see a potential run through the tournament for? Like, is there like
the Pacers,
you're like
I'm stoked on the Pacers anyway, just like this season. So it would be sweet for them to just like, win that and play their crazy, harried, very fast brand of basketball in Las Vegas. I feel like the Kings have been too quiet for my liking.
Yeah,
this season. Be nice.
They're 1-0 in their tournament play. They're looking all right.
Yeah. The Heat, of course, love the Heat. What about the Clippers? The Clippers would be funny if they got there because I feel like everyone but Kawhi, actually maybe Kawhi too, would just would no show for the game because they'd be in Vegas.
I'm pretty sure that the Clippers, along with the Spurs and the Grizzlies, are, and I think the Wizards and maybe the Pistons are the only teams eliminated from contention of making it to the quarterfinals.
Too bad. My vision of like every senior Clipper not coming to the game.
Just Ballmer losing his mind because he's won something, knowing that the ultimate goal will never be reached by this weirdo roster of decay. Yeah. That was a mean way to paint the Clippers, but I also kind of think not that far off. Have you seen James Harden play basketball lately? I have. It's not great. Katie, we're going to come back and decide, round it out with our final What's More Likely, where we're going to talk about what everybody likes to talk about, trades. We'll do that in just 1 second. Before that, however, got to tell you about our good friends over at Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app. You got to go check them out. Super fun. I am not someone who likes to play season-long fantasy all that much. I am in the Locked On Raptors listener league, and I'm doing pretty good, I should say. But for the most part, I'm not a season-long fantasy person. I retired from fantasy football because I didn't like the up and down and the sort of constant being at the mercy of injuries. Injuries really are the worst thing. With Prize Picks, you don't even have to worry about injuries because they have a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, you have a player who exits a game in the first half and does not return in the second. That player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. It's super simple. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players on a given entry, and whether they will get more or less than the projection in a given stat, courtesy of Prize Picks. You're not up against some shadow expert or some person behind a computer who's assembled a perfect roster. You don't even know what it is. No, it's just you against the projections the way it should be. You want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz? You can do that now on Community Plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedInNBA and use the code LockedInNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedInNBA. Code LockedInNBA for a first deposit match up to 100 bones. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Okay, rounding the show out here with Katie Heindl of Dime and Basketball Feelings. Thanks as always to our everyday listeners of the show. If you have not listened to all the episodes of the show this week, go do it. In particular, Wednesday's episode with Dan Devine was an absolute treat. Super fun. We love Dan. We talked about how much we love Katie in that very podcast as well. Just so much love going around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Awesome. Dan Devine, the very, very best there is. Non-Katie division, of course. Katie, the final What's More Likely I prepared for you today. It's still really early to be considering trades. They're
Uh-huh.
5-6 are the Toronto Raptors. They have a good defense. They have a not so good offense. It's pretty much what we expected. I think the on-court numbers of OG Anunoby and Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam together are very encouraging. The on-court numbers of basically any other combination of players, less encouraging. We're still in the information gathering phase here ahead of the trade deadline, where some big looming decisions will surely have to be made. My question to you, Katie, our third what's more likely here today is what's more likely? The Toronto Raptors make 0 in-season trades, or they go full bore and make 3 or more in-season trades. Katie, I see your look of confliction on your face. You want to say 1.5 trades right down the middle, but you can't. That's not the game. What you got?
I was actually talking about this at the game last night. I think my trepidation with any trade is it's unclear like what the team wants.
Yeah.
Like it feels really premature to I get like the Siakam contract's kind of like up in the air and you've got OG too, and you're probably not gonna be able to pay both those people. But trading one away while you just like you got your new coach, you're believing in this new system, we've done a total like 180 in the way that we play, it feels really premature to trade any more than one person,
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the trades that are getting talked about the most are the ones that have been looming for a little bit as an option. So I will say 0 in season, though my gut feels like that is not possible, as you alluded to, but that is not the game. So I'll say 0 because I don't know really what the purpose of a trade would be. You're not like trying to, you want to make maybe the play-in. It would be great if you could make the last like playoff berth and not be in the play-in, but those are your realistic goals for this season. So an in-season trade, you're not that bad right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess the question becomes like, does one of those trades do these become like sell-off trades if things don't go well, if the offense doesn't improve, if they get to mid-January and they're under 500 and everyone's looking around and seeing the tea leaves with Pascal and OG? Like, I think there's a world in which you pay both of those guys. Like I've said, the Siakam, OG, Barnes trio, it's good. Those 3 guys on the floor together, they win their minutes undeniably. As of right now, those 3 on the floor together, a plus 11.2 on-court differential, 92nd percentile in the league among 3-man groups. They're really good. But if you get to the point where the roster around them makes so little sense and the only sort of avenue out of it is to, use one of those players to try to accrue stuff that can help you better assemble a team that makes sense around Scotty Barnes, that's the pathway here for, I think, multiple trades where you get, one of the big guys dealt, Siakam or OG, probably Siakam if we're being real. And then maybe it's sort of like supplementary deals for guys who are pending UFAs, right? Like, Otto Porter Jr. gets shipped to a contender. Maybe Chris Boucher becomes a guy that teams look at as like a bench depth big type of thing. That I feel like is how this happens. So I will say, because I think that's on the table, and also because I think if they're good enough, come January, like if they're like over 500, if you get to the 45 game mark and they're actually looking like, oh, like this could be a top 6 team, I think there is value to addressing some of the very clear glaring holes on this team, which aren't actually like massive things to address. Yeah, you need to like extra shooting. You also need like a backup point guard, really. And if like you get to the point where you're actually kind of decent, maybe there's a move for like a 2nd-round pick for a backup point guard at some point that takes 0 trades off the table as an eventuality here too. So I think either way, whether they overachieve or underachieve between now and January, I think at least one trade probably happens. And so with that, I will say 3 is more likely than 0. Although, we know the Raptors don't like making in-season trades. It's not a thing they do a whole lot of. They've done it the last couple of years. Only with the Spurs, I feel like maybe that well has run dry. And so maybe there will be no trades to be made.
Wemby.
Trade for Wemby. I agree. That would be cool. I would be on board with trading for Victor Wembanyama. All right, Katie, I think that's going to bring us to the end. Any other thoughts on this whole trade stuff? I know it's like it's way premature to be talking about trades. It's also all anyone can ever do because that's the transaction industrial complex has consumed our minds. What are your sort of parting shots on this what's more likely, if you will?
I think we talked about this on the last show. I just don't really understand the logic of like, why can't we have Pascal and Scotty Barnes? Like
Yeah.
it's become such a. It's funny, like the push pull of it has become such like, oh, it's got to be one or the other. It has to be one or the other. It's not working. It's too soon to say if it's not working. There's definitely growing pains and adjustments that have to be made, but the ideal is you have, as you said, three great players
who all work well together,
leading your team. Who have worked together. We know they've all worked together before pretty well. Like they know how to do that. They're just adapting to a new way of playing right now and like playing together. So yeah, I'm always very perplexed when it starts to come down to like, well, it's got to be one or the other. It's like, no. This isn't like the ecosystem you're trying to create, right?
I'm generally just kind of baffled by the thinking of, well, it's the good players' fault. No, they're the good players. The players around them, the bench that can't get any sort of consistent run of success going. It's, the lack of shooting between Dennis Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl. Like, to me, you figure that stuff out. And maybe that stuff's too hard to figure out from the position they're in, right? Like maybe you can't trade Jakob Poeltl for a shooting big man. You probably can't. Like there's not that many shooting big men around there. But like there has to be a little more, I think, like creativity and innovation to like reassembling a roster than, oh, well, bad. So they're not good. So trade good player. Like, no, it's not, it doesn't have to be like that. Like you can, especially if you have the ability to retain Pascal, Scotty, and OG for many, many years, which you do. Like you can have a 4 or 5 year runway here with all three of those guys on your team. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, you have to work around cap stuff once Scotty's presumably rookie max extension comes in for 2025-26. But like that's still a ways off. There is time to figure this out in the in between. And even if you just sign Pascal to then maybe move him down the line at a time where you can get more value and it makes more sense, like that makes more sense to me than just kind of like shipping him off at the deadline because, well, they're the same height and they both like to dribble, so can't have them. Like, no, that's not how a smart team would operate, I don't think. I know there's lots of people who don't think the Raptors are a smart team anymore. And hey, they've done some not so smart stuff. The Jakob Poeltl trade creating this fit concern, kind of one of them. But
no more pizza in the media room.
No more pizza in the media room?
No, dude.
Wow.
But I will say,
about my credential anymore.
I will say if Mr. Rogers is concerned about money and like you're talking about you're going to have an expensive team, well, you just saved, I don't know how much like 2 pizzas is running you per game.
Well, the electricity bill on the pizza roller thing.
Yeah, they're off. That's a sad sight to see. They're just off and dark all over the building.
Wow, that's really upsetting. There's a little inside baseball. The poor media folks just starving, wasting away.
For dinner last night, popcorn and an apple.
We will leave that there. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Please subscribe, follow, rate, review, etc., etc. It's always much appreciated when you support the show. Katie, how can people support you and your wonderful work?
Wow, Sean, what a good seamless. You can read me at basketballfeelings.com. You can subscribe. You can become a paid subscriber and get the podcast. I'll tease it. Sure. Henry Abbott is coming on the next episode. We're trying tomorrow, so that will go out sometime next week. It's like it's been a fun way to like talk to people in and around basketball, not necessarily only media people also in other professions, writers, musicians, but that have ties to basketball about like their fandom, make a lot of jokes about what's going on right now, obviously talk about their feelings, how they got to where they are in their jobs, if that's relevant. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I've come to really enjoy those conversations.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Still waiting for my invite, Katie. We haven't talked enough about our origins with one
It's
another on
true.
various podcasts over the years. Unbelievable. I don't need to do any more podcasts. I'm kidding. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We'll be back again on Monday, of course, to break down the beginning of the in-season tournament. Also, a game against the Pistons on Sunday, which will be a game against the Pistons on Sunday. We get to see Asar Thompson in person. That's cool. We love
My
Asar
Pistons.
Thompson. The rest of that team, kind of a nightmare. But Asar Thompson, hell yeah. Jalen Duren, pretty cool too. So that'll be fun. We'll be back on Monday. In the meantime, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.